Hello everyone, welcome to another video. I'm Randy, and this is a thread that's been going around. I'm kind of late to the party, but originally Glenn Calloway from The Basement did a video where he ranked his 10 favorite American bands, and then Steve from All the World's a Stage did that as well, but then he included his favorite bands from the UK. I think Glenn has since done one for the UK, and so has Aaron Mutha-Alamere, Mike at MGK Boston, and several others. I'm probably leaving some people out. But anyway, I'm not going to call mine from England or British. I'm going to say my 10 favorite UK bands, so I can include Scotland and Wales if I so choose. And so let's get started with that. Now, first off, there were so many, and it's unbelievable how many great bands came out of the UK, and that the probably top 5 or 6 on my list are probably better than any American band or any other band in the world, I think. But anyway, it's just amazing how many great groups came out of the UK. But so, first of all, I'm going to show 5 that didn't quite make my list. I guess I'm calling them honorable mention. Deep Purple, this is their album In Rock, probably the second favorite after Machine Head for me. Sorry, Robert's on my turntable, I didn't quite make it. Pink Floyd, this is actually my favorite Pink Floyd album, Wish You Were Here. Squeeze, sorry James Griffiths, but they were my honorable mention. Also, if you love Squeeze, you need to get James Griffiths' book, The Pop Music Played. And let's see, oh, here was the A&M label for Squeeze. And then XTC, I know Glenn Calloway's really been big on them lately. They just barely missed my list. This is the Black Sea, which may be my favorite, by XTC on the Geffen label. And the last one, I just didn't think they had enough. They only had 2 albums come out, but I love the Housemartins. It's probably my favorite group with Paul Heaton, my favorite Paul Heaton project. Like I said, they had 2 great albums, and then they broke up, and I do like them. I love The Beautiful South, but I still think the Housemartins were the best of that. All right, now to my top 10 favorite UK bands. Number 10 is The Waterboys. They're from Scotland. This is their album, This Is the Sea, which is my favorite. And this is when they were really quite a band, with Mike Scott as the main songwriter, vocal, guitar, piano, Anthony Thistlethwaite on saxophone, and Carl Wallinger on bass and keyboards. He would later leave to form World Party. But this was when they were a great band, and I love this configuration of the group. Of course, I still enjoy the Waterboys now, even though they're more of a Mike Scott project than a band, I guess, but I'm still going to include them. This is their latest, the Waterboys All Souls Hill, which is pretty good. They're getting a little, he's getting more back to his original thoughts. This is the label that came on. And I think they're on Cooking Vinyl. But anyway, so that's their new one, which I think is pretty good. And Mike Scott also has a pretty good book, Adventures of a Waterboy, if anybody's interested. Although some say he can be kind of a bit of a diva. All right, number 9, and it's going to be The Jam. This is their album, Setting Suns. They're on the Polydor label. And my favorite album by The Jam is Sound Effects, which has the song That's Entertainment, which really got me into The Jam. Also love Man in the Corner Shop on here, and Start is a really great single. And there's this is a repress. All right, it's my number 8, and that will be Dire Straits. This is their debut album. Of course, they had Sultans of Swing on it. They were on the Warner Brothers label. Inside. And their biggest, my favorite of theirs is probably Making Movies, but this was one of their biggest sellers, and I think it is the first album to sell 1 million copies on compact disc at the beginning of the compact disc era. Yeah, this is Brothers in Arms, had Money for Nothing, Walk of Life, the title track, Your Latest Trick, but a bunch of great great tunes on here. And there's that Mark Knopfler guitar with the resonator that made those unique. You can always tell when Mark Knopfler's playing a solo, and I can't get that back in there. All right, my 7th favorite UK band is Roxy Music. This is their debut. This is a reissue. This came out Record Store Day like a couple years ago, I think. Of course, it's got Virginia Plain, If There Is Something, some great tunes I like by Roxy Music. Great debut album. The Record Store Day one came on this kind of this clear vinyl. And then I love this album, Country Life, which the Roxy Music always knew how to make some great covers. That's on the Atco label. But I love Brian Ferry's voice. My favorite album by them is probably Avalon, which people will say, well, you're not a real Roxy Music fan if Avalon's your favorite, but it is, and I do like all their other albums as well. All right, number 6. And that's going to be The Clash. This is their album, London Calling, one of the best albums ever. I like everything on here, with the great title track, Lovers Rock, Revolution Rock. I like all the rocks on there. Lost in the Supermarket, great kind of ballad. Train in Vain, which isn't listed on there, but it's on there, is great. Epic label, came from their punk roots, but they really experimented more with melody and other genres of music, which I really liked. And I'm also going to show Sandinista, which some people think is bloated. It's a 3 LP set, but I love all the different twists and turns that they have on this album. They're experimenting with ska and reggae and dub, and yeah, I think it's a great album, and I like everything on here. My number 5, it's the Kinks. This is their 3rd studio album, The Kink Controversy. I think this is when they really come into their own. It's got Where Have All the Good Times Gone and Till the End of the Day. I love their Milk Cow Blues, which of course Elvis did on the Sun Sessions, but they do a great version as well. The Kinks and Kink Controversy. And then one of their late 70s albums that I really love, Misfits. It has the song Rock and Roll Fantasy, plus the great title track. And of course they were on the Arista label. Now the big heavy hitters. My number 4, Led Zeppelin. This is their album, In Through the Outdoor, which I love this album, and I love Hot Dog as well. I think it's a great kind of rockabilly-like tune. Of course, they were on the Swan label. And then one of the greatest rock records of all time, Led Zeppelin, also known as Led Zeppelin 4. This was a reissue. But yeah. Led Zeppelin 4. That's what a lot of people call it. All right, now for my number 3, and I hope I don't get kicked out of the VC for this, but I'm sorry from either number 3, and that's the Beatles. This is their album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which Glenn Calloway thinks is the best album of all time. It's a great album, but I don't quite agree with that. And then early album, Meet the Beatles. This is the U.S. release. It was with the Beatles. The UK release, which is a black, which looks better than this. This is kind of a blue tinted one they put on Meet the Beatles. I love that cover though. Which leaves my number 2 and number 1. Number 2, yeah, the Rolling Stones. This is their album Between the Buttons. Has Ruby Tuesday on there. What else is on here? Let's Spend the Night Together, which they changed the lyrics for the Ed Sullivan Show, where other artists did not. And on the London label. And the other one I'm going to show, even though Exile on Main Street is my favorite, but this is Goat's Head Soup with the famous Mick Jagger kind of in the veil thing there. And of course this had the big hit Angie on it. There's the label. And which leaves number one. Of course, most people who know me know that what that's going to be. That's going to be The Who. This is their album, The Who Sell Out, which some people don't like the little advertisements in between. I enjoy them and I don't get tired of them. Of course, this was a reissue. I had the poster in there. This has the great tune I Can See for Miles with the great Keith Moon drumming. And then maybe the greatest rock album of all time. And that, of course, is Who's Next with the famous cover and on the MCA Rainbow label. And that's my number one. And that's my top 10 UK bands. You can make comments of how wrong you think that I am or whatever. But I mean, it's just my favorites. I mean, everybody's got different ones. And from these lists, you'll notice there's a lot of differences between what everybody picked. So anyway, thanks for watching and hope everyone's doing well. Take care.